WWE SmackDown this week was built around the bar fight between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, and while a number of key surprises did happen, including the return of a much loved figure, the main takeaway for me is that Jeff Hardy now also has superpowers. We also saw a lot of talk about hashtags. We also saw a tag team explode, the beginning of a potential big singles run for someone who's long deserved it, and quite a lot of piped in cheers and boos. Before we begin, please take a moment to click like, subscribe if you haven't, and let's get started. SmackDown opened with a little segment including JBL hyping up the bar fight to be the main event of the evening. We were then introduced to Sasha Banks and Bayley, so the draw segment actually came at the beginning of the show instead of at the middle. Confusing initially. Banks and Bayley cut their usual promo about how great they are, and are then interrupted as usual by Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross does a lot of talking this time instead of Alexa Bliss as usual, speaking with passion, speaking with intensity, and speaking with a little bit of crazy, gotta admit. She demands a rematch because of the easy way out that Bayley took in their match at Extreme Rules, and Bayley grants her that match because Bayley is, as we all know, the GM of SmackDown. However, she will have to clear a hurdle first, that hurdle being her tag team partner Alexa Bliss. The match is good if uninspiring. There are a couple of good moments, but most of the match is spent sort of doing stare downs and, Alexa trying to assess whether Nikki Cross is actually a threat to her long term. Alexa Bliss does lose the match after a roll up from Nikki, a little bit of Faye. And they spend a lot of this match with Sasha Banks and Bayley on commentary, with Corey Graves in particular reminding Bayley of times when she has lost titles to Alexa Bliss. Both of those women have lost a lot of titles between them to Alexa Bliss. What this does mean is that next week on SmackDown, we will see Nikki Cross having a rematch with Bayley. Also upcoming on Raw, we have a rematch of Sasha Banks and Asuka, and we have a rematch of Dolph Ziggler versus Drew McIntyre. What was the point of Extreme Rules? We have a brief Firefly Funhouse segment in which Bray Wyatt essentially celebrates his victory? I want to say victory. And states that it is now the Fiend's time. Braun Strowman does not appear. I would really like some comment from Alexa Bliss about her use in the Swamp Fight, or does she maybe not watch WWE TV? Our second match of the evening features Matt Riddle, who is now essentially trying to recover from his loss against AJ Styles, leading into his feud against Baron Corbin. He takes on Tony Nese and soundly beats him. I feel kind of bad for Tony Nese there. There were rumours that Baron Corbin had laid out a plan for Matt Riddle that included working through jobbers. He said enhancement talents, but jobbers. That looks like it was kayfabe instead of actual reality, because that's the storyline they seem to be settling with. Straddling the first and second hour, which is usually the draw segment, we have Miz TV with special guest Naomi. They are putting a lot of eggs in the Naomi basket this week, and really I encourage everyone who believes in Naomi to make that fact heard on social media, and in fact in the ratings, which unfortunately this week are not likely to be high enough to warrant a repeat here. I do know from the WWE that this is supposed to be a litmus test. A hashtag doesn't tell the whole story. Will people tune in to see Naomi? They put this whole segment together with this in mind. The idea being that we would hate Miz and Morrison, they did a very good job of that, and hate Lacey Evans when she would be introduced to it. Essentially this was supposed to put over Naomi, but I don't feel they really did enough, and if not many people tuned in, or if there isn't much of a social media buzz afterwards, they will abandon this storyline. Regardless of your thoughts on this matter, make yourself heard. We get a backstage segment featuring the New Day. Big E is waiting on news from Kofi Kingston about an injury, and Kofi Kingston does state that it will be about 6 weeks before he can return. He also states that this is prime time for Big E to take a singles run, and I think this really caught a lot of attention and got a lot of people excited. When Kofi Kingston was pushed towards the WWE Championship, both of his teammates were in his corner the entire time. Now it doesn't look like Big E's going to have anybody by his side, but he certainly will in spirit, and he will have a lot of people behind him wherever he goes. Certainly possible he'll be moving towards the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam, but it's also very possible he may get a WWE Universal Championship shot against The Fiend after SummerSlam. News on Kofi Kingston, it is not a legit injury, he's just taking time off to go and spend some time with his family. Probably the biggest surprise match of the night, and what I felt was actually the best match of the night, was the next one. It is a fatal 4-way #1 contendership match for the Intercontinental Championship, featuring Lince Dorado, Gran Metalik, Chad Gable, who I will never refer to as any other name, and Drew Gulak. Any one of these 4 men will give AJ Styles a fantastic match. AJ Styles was on commentary, he got a few names wrong, he got told off by Vince McMahon for doing so, and really I think we've reached a point of AJ Styles that he just doesn't care anymore. I'm kind of there for it. The winner of the match, in what is a pleasant surprise for me, was Gran Metalik. AJ Styles does a typical, oh well, I'm the heel in this, so I've got to be a heel and slap you, because that match is next week, and I'm very excited for it. I don't see this as any sort of long-term push for Gran Metalik, it's really a 1-week push. However, he can potentially do very good things in that 1 week. SmackDown is definitely making some changes to the way it presents people. We have a vignette of footage they've already shown for Otis and Mandy Rose, who are apparently expected back next week. It's been about a month, and I worry that Otis' time as Money in the Bank holder has not been used as well as it should have. Also, I think SmackDown has really missed Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I can potentially see a Naomi versus Sonya Deville feud coming very soon in the future. Cesaro and Nakamura celebrate their tag title victory in a backstage segment. They essentially talk about how much they made Kofi Kingston go splat. I do have a question for Cesaro and Nakamura though. Who's left to actually feud with? Like, seriously. New Day are unavailable. The Usos are unavailable. Lucha House Party is now in an Intercontinental Championship feud. Heavy Machinery haven't been pushed, but only Otis has. The Forgotten Sons, nobody wants to work with them right now, which leaves Miz and Morrison? Heel versus heel? They need some new tag teams, and fast. Finally, with a half hour left to go, we get to the bar fight, which does not take the full half hour. Instead, they hype the match, go on commercial break, introduce the match, go on commercial break, and then they start the match. It has been pre-recorded, it is cinematic fare, it was originally supposed to be on the Extreme Rules card, however they decided to move it to SmackDown to free that card up a little and potentially pop a rating. I don't think they're going to manage it. There was quite a long segment at the beginning of this match when Sheamus and Jeff Hardy simply sat there and talked. And I've been involved in a few of those particular conversations in bars where you're upset with the other person, then you sit down, you have a drink and you talk it out. And by the end of it you're drunk and you're in a good place. Jeff Hardy of course can't do that because he is an alcoholic, and he admits that. He admitted that at the opening of the show. They can't do that. Stop doing all of this. This is not good. The initial blow was a pint of beer to the face. The hand that threw it into Sheamus' face was not Jeff Hardy's. There's not much wrestling to talk about in this particular match. There is some palaver involving a drum kit. Jeff Hardy, being Jeff Hardy, magically finds a ladder. He gets flushed in the... There are images from this match that are going to haunt Jeff Hardy for a long time. A long time. Mostly it's just punches until Jeff Hardy, due to a distraction from the barman, what a surprise, ends up laid out and Sheamus puts his hat on Jeff Hardy's face and stops to get himself a pint. As an Irishman, I respect that. When Sheamus returns and takes his hat off of Jeff Hardy's face, Jeff Hardy now has a painted face and contact lenses in. Jeff Hardy also has superpowers. Jeff Hardy then climbs to the top of the ladder, jumps off it and wins the match. This is not the end of the feud. Jeff Hardy winning just means there needs to be more. This is not a good feud. I really considered turning off the last half hour because I knew how it was going to go and I didn't want to see it. And then I watched it and I didn't want to see it. SmackDown by and large was a good show in my opinion. The quality of wrestling wasn't as high as it has been recently, and we are leading towards a lot of rematches. However, there were some new people focused on. we had the win for Grand Metalik, we had Tony Nese feature, we had Naomi in a segment where she was clearly positioned as the star, and I feel Cross and Bliss is a different match which they're struggling to actually get now because they're focusing on the same 4 women on SmackDown. Now they've opened it up a little bit more, we've got Mandy Rose coming back, we've got Naomi getting some focus, hopefully that should change. There are also some quite exciting developments. I've mentioned Grand Metalik, but Big E being positioned for a singles push is a very good thing and should result in some very exciting moments. However, the lack of Braun Strowman and the fact that the Universal Championship has simply not been on TV for a number of weeks now, that is a concern to me. My Twitter poll for the show resulted in a 40% good rating followed by a 23% okay rating. So, middle of the road, leaning towards the positive. I would agree with that. I think this is a show that if you missed it, you wouldn't really have missed anything. Next week is where things will actually happen. This was very much a rebuilding and setting up show, and sometimes those shows have to happen. Let me know your opinion in the comments. If you've enjoyed this, please do remember to like and subscribe. I've been Tom Collihew, and I want to thank you for joining me.